Some of my earliest memories of money was not having none.
What moment did you say, I'm gonna make a change?
In my mind, the whole time, I always knew that I wanted to help my mom. So at 9 years old, I used to have a job.
What was it like in the very beginning days of starting FOMO?
I went from doing 100 returns the previous year to 800 returns during the year of COVID. So a huge jump. And then that came a whole bunch of publicity. I think CNBC reached out, the Business Insider reached out.
Welcome back to the Visionary Network Show, where I have conversations with successful entrepreneurs and creatives. I'm your host, Anthony Williams. For today's episode, we're gonna have an amazing discussion with Shania Wilson, Bronx native, mother, entrepreneur. We're gonna highlight areas such as discipline, being a CEO, leadership, and also leading with love. Miss Wilson, let's take it back. Grew up in the Bronx. What were some of your earliest memories of money in business?
Some of my earliest memories of money was not having none. To be honest, my mother had me when she was 16. She had myself and then my younger brother at that time. And she also took care of a lot of her siblings. She has 5 siblings. So she's the oldest. So honestly, she did all that she can do to spread everything across everywhere between me and my brother, all of her siblings, and helping take care of her parents. So it's not like we struggled, we always had enough, but we just didn't have a surplus. And a lot of times this ended up meaning that we had to share. So growing up in a shared room with your siblings, or sometimes your aunt needs to come and stay. So now you're sharing a room with your aunt. And then just money making people miserable, not having money. I just hated seeing not just my mother, but her friends, my aunts, complain about not making enough and worrying about how they want to pay rent and worrying about how they want to keep food on the table. And also just how much it was a hindrance for them doing more of what they wanted to do, like traveling. My grandmother, all of her years of life, has never left New York. However, even though there wasn't money there was so much love there. So kind of seeing both. People say not having money makes you sad and miserable, but for us it wasn't the case. It did enable us from doing a lot more that we would have desired. However, there was still so much love in my house. So now, I am appreciative that my family still carries the same value of love, even though we have more money, because some people get more money and it makes them more miserable.
Growing up, you had the love in the house. Also, you saw your mom sacrifice and really put the whole family on her back, and also having you. Now you're here, right? 7-figure entrepreneur. You could do what you want to do whenever you want to do it, right? But I think, you're someone that you didn't make the money and wanted more and keep going for more. It's if you do want more, you're going for more impact. And we're going to go into the impact that you're making later on in our conversation. So what moment did you say, I'm going to make a change? I don't want to have a lack of money. When did that happen for you?
Because of my upbringings, in my mind, the whole time, I always knew that I wanted to help my mom. That, she was my first, real why, my real purpose of being so ambitious. Me at just 9 years old knew that I wanted to start contributing and making a change. So at 9 years old, I used to have a job. I used to work in a supermarket that my mom used to work in, packing bags, making maybe a couple dollars a day, but it was enough to at least buy some bread, buy some eggs. Fast forward to me being in high school, I got my first kind of real job at 13 years old. I actually was too young for summer youth, so my principal put in a special notice for me to work at a summer camp, a science camp. And then again, I was able to kind of help start contributing. And I would say beyond my mother, as I started to just grow and see what my peers were struggling, by the time I got to college, I knew that I wanted to do something that made a difference and impact at a larger scale. So even in college, I was thinking about entrepreneurship as an option. Though I knew that I wanted to start my career in corporate, I knew that the impact that I wanted to make was going to expand beyond just working for a large corporation and really working with the people.
When I look at your profile, especially on LinkedIn, you got a bunch of letters behind your name. You miss alphabet soup on top of the people CPA. So what fueled that drive? You got all the stuff before you're 30. So tell me.
I really do value education, number one. So all of the letters that you see behind my name come from me just having a drive for pursuing higher education. So when I was in college, I actually went to school and started with just an associate's degree, a 2-year program. I didn't really know what I wanted to do right then and there. I just went to college, actually undeclared. So I finished with my associate's in accounting, and after that, I knew that I wanted to pursue a bachelor's at a minimum. But once I got to SUNY Oswego and I learned about the MBA program and me deciding that being a CPA was what I wanted to do, I was able to do the 2+1 program where I did 2 more years to get a bachelor's, then a 1 year to do my MBA. And then while I was there, I learned that I actually really do love education at a core, like even down to research and knowledge building. So that pushed me to want to pursue a PhD. And people are like, who gets a CPA and then also goes back to get a PhD? Well, that was me and my hopes and dreams. So after working in Big Four for a year, I went back to Rutgers University and enrolled in a PhD in accounting information systems. The reason why I wanted to do this is 5 years ago, before ChatGPT came out. I knew that technology was going to change the world and definitely change the industry of accounting because there's so many manual, mundane tasks that are being done. So I got accepted into Rutgers, which was a really prestigious program. They are actually #1 in AIS research. However, at that time, I was still working on my business. So it got to the point where the academics were aware of me working and building Fuller Financial, and they pretty much made me choose in between the two. Like, okay, it's either you build your business or you finish this PhD. So I finished all of my coursework, but I had to stop the PhD program. But because I did all of my coursework, I got my second master's degree, which is a master's in management research with a concentration in AIS. So I have 4 college degrees. It's funny because like when clients come on and I tell them about my love for accounting, I bet you the other CPA does not have 4 accounting degrees. Like,
you got degrees in different dimensions of accounting,
mm-hmm.
right? At least that's how I'd look at it. How do you balance it all?
Just being self-aware allows me to balance everything. Like, I am one who works hard, but I'm not one who overworks myself to the point where if it gets to a situation where I feel too overwhelmed or I start to feel like my energy is beyond drained, I will take a break. I will literally cancel a whole week if I need to, re-energize and rebuild into myself, because I know that I cannot pour into the cup of my clients, my staff, or my family if I'm not okay. I have a spa membership. Like I go to the spa probably like every week or at least bi-weekly at a minimum. I travel quite often. And now because I have my daughter, this just is even more important for me to make sure that I am continuously pouring in myself outside of everyone.
Let's talk about that moment where you had that corporate job. And I remember because we were talking about it and you were like, yo, this is not happening. They're pissing me off. This is ridiculous. And so tell me a little bit about that moment from when you said, you know what, Anthony, I'm going full into the entrepreneurship. So what was going through your mind? What was happening? And why did you make the decision?
Working in Big Four accounting, it's so interesting because when I was a student, I was like praying to have a career in Big Four, and I received that. And then I got there and I learned so much, number one. I actually ended up meeting someone who knew that I finished my CPA, knew that I was working at a Big Four accounting firm. And he said to me, how much more impactful would it be if you took your skill set as a young Black woman CPA and allowed that to help power small businesses? And again, this is in 2017, so a very, very long time ago. And I took what he said and I just meditated on it. And I'm like, okay, understanding that me being a CPA and working at this Big Four firm, it's powering these large Fortune 500 companies that already got so much support from these other people, right? And these investors. There's so many underrepresented communities that need the expertise that being the CPA can actually add value to their businesses and allow them to grow wealth. And in my head, like, bringing these small businesses to a point where they can hire more people in their community and, retire their parents and, provide funding for the future of their kids was so much more purposeful and a better place for me to use my skills as a CPA rather than just staying in corporate.
Now, tell us about the beginning days. I'm pretty sure it wasn't easy. You ain't just get to 0 to 7. What was it like in the very beginning days of starting FOLA?
I was so young. I was like 21 years old, a fresh CPA, fresh out of school, just, in corporate. And I honestly did not know what I was doing. I also didn't even know where to start in regards to like finding a mentor or resources to help support. So I was winging it, but I love winging things. Like that's just me. I learned through experience. So to get my first couple of clients, actually, I used Fiverr as a platform. I went on, made a profile, and I worked with 2 small companies, one helping them with bookkeeping using QuickBooks. And then because I started promoting the brand on Instagram, a lot of people started reaching out to me for tax prep. So I was able to gather probably my first year, maybe like 30 clients for tax prep, maybe like 2 to 3 clients for bookkeeping. So it was really modest and small. Remember though, at the same time, I was also still in the PhD program. So a lot of my time was committed to the program. So I just, crept and just grew the clientele over the next 2 or 3 years, just at a moderate rate. And then COVID happened. Ooh. So COVID honestly was a really big accelerator in regards to how we got to our clientele level now. Because I was doing FOLUC on the side and virtually because I was in the PhD program, once COVID happened and people were forced to do their taxes filings online and do it virtually because we couldn't go outside, I was blessed to be positioned. So that year, we actually did I went from doing 100 returns the previous year to 800 returns during the year of COVID. So a huge jump, yes. And then that came a whole bunch of publicity. I think CNBC reached out. I kicked off Squawk Box on tax season. The Business Insider reached out. I sit on their tax board for the 5th year in a row now.
So when you in your first year of business, you picked up 30 clients. Okay. Then you went from 30 to 100 and then from 100 to 800. Now walk us through some of the pain points or things that happened when you were scaling. What are some things that you learned going from, almost 10xing?
A lot of the key things that I learned in the process of scaling was really how to replace myself in coordination with what I could afford as well, right? Because you want to still make sure that you have profit. So the first leg of replacing myself was getting rid of admin tasks. So my first hire was an admin person to help with answering emails, answering calls, just following up with client engagement. So that piece of everything was, offloaded. Then the next replacement that I did was in bookkeeping. So I was able to hire like a couple of bookkeepers to help on a contractual basis. Then as we grew, I actually was doing a lot of tax prep myself. I was struggling to find a great tax person that I could afford because, of course, CPAs are expensive. They need at least 6 figures a year in benefits that I could not offer in my young age with my young business at that time. So I was like, I don't know how to grow staff in the area of tax. I needed that before I again got to the 800. In that year, 2000, now I'm thinking about the hindsight, everything happened so perfectly. I had a mentor who told me to start a tax training program. She was like, if you're having a hard time finding staff, how about you create a paid program, you train people, and then you take the best and you allow them to work with you during tax season as an apprenticeship. This is all the way back in 2018. So I'm like, okay, let me listen to what she said. I started another business, Fuller EDU, which is our tax training program. TELP is IRS certified. So that first year that we launched TELP, we had around 30 people sign up and pay for the course. And then from that, I was able to take 10. And that's how I was able to go from 100 to 800 people. So I had a team of people who actually I trained for 2 whole months prior to tax season beginning. Of course, there were still so many errors and issues because they weren't as educated as me being a CPA and having had tax experience. It still required me to put on the hat and be a reviewer. Reviewing all those returns still took a lot of my time. So of course, now that I had this lump sum of cash after tax season, my next hire was somebody who was more qualified and experienced to be a reviewer. So really it's just I call it the domino hires. Like you want to hire to where you're replacing yourself in areas that make sense, but at the same time, according to your budget. Because of course that person gets paid a really nice penny. For me, she's still a staff here and she definitely get paid the highest, but it's worth every dime because I can now be fully out of the tax prep process as well and know that these returns are being prepared and reviewed with quality. I would say that the other growing areas of scaling comes from understanding how to evaluate and implement systems in your business. So people is just one part of system creation. Processes and creating procedures around how to operate a business is also essential as well. So I actually hired an operations manager whose job for the first year was to document every single thing and create SOPs, because this allowed us to do two things. Having a properly documented business, you can now see if you can automate that process using technology, or if we can outsource that piece for labor. Of course, we try to lean towards technology so that we can scale with minimal cost, but some of those things may require additional people. So every time we got to a stage of feeling bottlenecked, we did the same thing every single time. We laid out the processes, looked at the procedures, see how we can leverage things like AI and Zapier to automate those things. If not, who can we hire that is qualified but economical at the same time to do that function so that we can continue to scale? And now, like, even for example, when I was able to, have my daughter, I told my operations manager, she's probably the third person that I told that I was pregnant, because I'm like, girl, what are we gonna do? I'm pregnant, 3 months, tax season's about to come up. And then we just created the plan, because she asked me, when do you want to take maternity leave? And I'm like, my due date's in June, so probably from May. So I actually was able to take maternity leave from May all the way into around September, knowing that I was still earning income, the company was still running, because we put the systems in place, the people's in place, the procedures in place to make sure that our clients are satisfied and we're still growing at a good rate at the same time.
There's so much to unpack there. So I think the first thing would be replacing yourself. And so identifying the right type of talent. And then you got creative with it. Tell us about the struggles of the balance. Like, what are some things that happen that people may not see on social media?
In regards to struggles, there are so many. Like, there's struggles that I've faced in regards to hiring, friends, for example. I learned, because I'm such a loving person, that friends have their places in your life. In some cases, business just may not be one of those things. The way that I lead is through love. Like, I am not a boss that is tough, or I'm going to yell at people, or I don't believe in that, because I don't like that being done to me, right? Now, when you have friends that work with you, the comfortability it's too much. Because they already know that you are a nice person, and now that you're leading in this way, they're not taking you serious. So I felt at some times I was out of place, having to change my character to try to have my friends work in the business with a more serious mindset. But then I just had to cut it off. And I just honestly made a rule that I just can't work with my friends no more. It is what it is.
Listen, I know, I've been there. You can't just hire anybody. You have to hire people with the right skills. And so talk me through, when you're hiring someone, looking for the right team member, what do you look for? What questions are you asking yourself when hiring a team member for your organizations?
Honestly, even outside of skill set and their experience, it's about alignment with our core 4 values. So at FOLA, we have our core 4 values, which dissects our name into these 4 areas. So the F in FOLA stands for family. So we are very family oriented. The O stands for optimism. So being optimistic and being able to see problems through problems to obtain solutions. The L stands for leadership, and understanding that we want people to step up to the plate and own their processes, right? Because we work asynchronous a lot. And then the A stands for accountability. Right? So of course we're an accounting firm, so accountability definitely has to be in there in that way, but also holding yourself accountable to the things that you're going to do as well are what our core 4 values are, what we look for in our staff. So our job postings on Indeed, or whenever we do job postings anywhere else, leads with that. Here are our core 4 values, and do you align with those? Because a lot of our interview has to do with that. If you're not family oriented, you're probably not gonna work with the team. And we have people fake the funk through the interview process, but then still not last for a while because they didn't fit in with the team. We have a pretty big team. Right now it's around 26 of us, and we're just so tight knit that it's really easy to see when people do not fit. It's you're like a needle in a haystack type of vibe. So alignment is key for core 4 values, because outside of what you're being hired for, it's more important that you align with our purpose, our mission, our vision, right? Like, do you care about wealth being accessible to everyone around the world? Do you care about education and finances being a part of what people experience when they're being serviced? Do you care about these things? Like, what is your background? Do you resonate with these things on a deeper level? And we literally look for those things first and foremost. Then it's, yes, the skill assessments that has to match as well. But luckily for most talent, even if they don't know everything in the skill areas, we're able to develop talent as well, right? And then also, I would say it's just typically we give people a 1 month runway, because I think in a month you can tell who people are.
You got real clear on the core values. How do you balance being a CEO, a mentor, an educator? As you can tell, there's a lot of balancing going on.
Everything that I add onto my plate is in alignment. And I know I keep going back to the word alignment, but honestly, I think it's key. When everything are in alignment, it's like everything that I do fulfills all of those roles every single time, right? Like, as a CEO, my goal is to lead my team. And that ties into me being an educator and me being a mentor, right? Me being a mentor comes a lot from my experience as a CEO, so, and being an educator, I'm able to communicate my experience and teach my mentees the things that I learned so they can be better than me in a quicker amount of time. So I think it really comes down to saying yes to the right things, because as I also gain older and develop wisdom, I learned that saying no to things that aren't in alignment are just so much more important, because we only have 24 hours in a day.
What are things you think are most important when it comes to being a CEO and also a founder of many organizations?
I believe that a lot of it has to do with you deciding what your style is going to be, right? So my personal philosophy is to lead with love. I know there's so many organizations that grow, but then I hear so many of my friends, like, I hate my job, I hate my boss, I hate this, I hate that. And I'm like, yeah, no. Like, I also left, Big Four because I hated the culture there too. So my philosophy is to lead with love. When you lead with love, love also comes to you. Everybody who works at Fola Financial and any of our businesses love being there. And then the love is felt by our clients. Like, the reviews that we get from our clients are, I love working with the Fola team, and they recommend us to their family and their friends. So that's my personal philosophy. I also would say that education has a lot to do with my leadership style as well, because investing in your team also makes them just feel really empowered. Being able to help them get to their next level of professional development as well also keeps them happy, right? You never want to just stick somebody somewhere and you not be invested in them, because that's also when they want to leave, because they want to experience growth. And we take growth really serious, which allows also for more room. So, like, the organization is like building itself at this way where we are connected through our culture. We feel each other through the love that we have in and out of our organization, and we grow and also support the growth of our clients as well.
Leadership style, love, and then we talk about you're investing in people, so you're helping them get to the next level, gaining more education, more certifications, and then eventually, like, you then create this system, an ecosystem of people that are being loved, are being watered with growth and development, and then you rinse and repeat, and then you're here. Right. And then I think that also can attract more people to the brand, because they're like, listen, these big four accounting firms, forget about it. Let's go work for Fola Financial or whatever Fola Enterprises is running.
It's so crazy because our last 3 hires came from people reaching out to us. I'll tell my operation manager, like, hey, girl, I think we need to hire for this role soon. And out of the blue, somebody would email us, hey, I saw Fola Financial on LinkedIn, and, here's my resume. I don't know if you guys have anything open, but if you do, I would love to be a part of it. And they've been great fits because, again, they're attracted to the culture, the love, the watering, the education, our impact, and what we're doing. So yes, it's definitely have been working for us.
When it comes to representation, you're a Black woman, you're a Black entrepreneur, and you're in a financial services business, which is it doesn't look like you, at all. Doesn't look like me at all. So how do you manage and navigate that space and still be authentic to yourself?
When it comes to representation, especially as a Black woman, CPA, in the male-dominated industry like finance, I would say that I had to really own who I am and define what I wanted to be perceived as in this industry, right? 'Cause I think males kind of lead with a bit more aggression than women. As I said before, I lead just with love and a little bit more lightness and kindness. And interestingly, in regards to representation, a lot of our clients that come because of, you know, what I look like, and they also love my story as well. So representation really is key. I do believe that the key to more minorities accumulating more wealth, they need to see wealth looking more like us as well. The thing is, though, I don't discriminate. I realize that representation kind of goes beyond my gender and my color. Representation for me is my story and where I want to go. So we service clients from all backgrounds. We have, you know, white clients, we have Indian clients, Asian clients. And what Fola represents to them is also a path to freedom and whatever freedom looks like for them.
Let's talk about legacy and vision. All right. And so looking ahead, I don't know we talk often about this, but I'm curious to know what you're going to say with this one is, what's the bigger vision for Shanae and Fola? If we were to connect in 30 years, what are we doing? What does it look like?
So the bigger vision for Shanae and Fola Financial, and I'm going to say it separately because we are two separate entities. I am myself, and then Fola Financial and Fola Enterprises as the group is a whole nother entity group as well. So me as Shanae would love to in 30 years be at a point where I can confidently say that I've educated millions of people around the world, and I inspired them to take the risk, to be daring and go after creating whatever financial freedom looks like for them and their lives. And in regards to Fola Enterprises, I would love to say that Fola Financial has effectively, grew 1 million small businesses around the world, has helped over 1 million, households create generational wealth. Also have provided millions of students with scholarships and support, and also have, been able to just do other things that are outside of finance. So finance gives way for us to tackle problems that we're also passionate about. So for me, just down to the basics as Fola Foundation being able to allow for more communities to gain access to fresh water, for more young women to gain access to sanitary products, for more, illiterate communities to gain access to books, to resources, and to educate them in this internet and digital age, right? So Fola Financial is the vessel as why I'm doing it. And yes, finance is so essential to what we do and what we are, but really I want to help the human race transcend and understand that we, again, are human beings. And, once we get beyond finances being a big part of our lives and our struggle and our stories, well, what else do we have to offer to the world? Like, we have a responsibility, in my opinion, not just to the planet, but also to each other, right? Because our kids are gonna have to grow up into this future. I would love for my children to grow up in a place where equality and equity are not just things that are being tossed around by corporations, but it's things that people are embodying to create a world full of more peace and more love, going back to the eras of the 70s where people just wanted to spread positivity.
Right. No, that's a huge vision. And I can't wait to look back at this clip and see, all these visions come into fruition. If you were to go back and talk to the younger Shanae at 18 years old, what would you tell her?
I would tell her that the dreams that she's having are not too big. I would tell her that the support, the love that she's looking for is also looking for her. I would tell her that her opinions and views in the world are worth working towards. And just to stay positive, continue to be kind to those around her, love, definitely doubled down on like learning things for sure. Because I was like, whoo, 18-year-old me was outside these streets having a time, which is a good thing. However, I'm like, time is our greatest asset. So perhaps 18-year-old me could have been taking it a little bit more serious back then because, we probably would have been at our 30-year goals right now today. But the journey is the most important part. So everything happens for a reason. So I would tell her to just, stay present, not to worry about the past, still stay hopeful and dream for the future, but to enjoy these moments that are being created as well.
Thank you for sharing your story today. It's been a masterclass. We talked about, your upbringing and what motivates you, inspires you. We talked about scaling from like 0 to like 1,000 plus when it comes to your customers. We talked about establishing a pipeline of talent, impacting people in Africa, different continents. You're the true people CPA, the true people CPA. So thank you for coming through. Excited to see what you're building, and I can't wait to see that vision you talked about coming to fruition.
Thank you for having me at the Visionary Network. This was a great conversation.
Yes. Cue the music.